Hello, Beth.
Hey, Adam.
How are you doing this Thursday?
I'm great. How are you?
Really, really good. I'm excited to share with you a design challenge, I think number 6. Today, we're going to focus around sales discovery, particularly it's sort of sales kickoff season. People are starting to think about how do they plan their quarter going forward. And discovery has always been one of those skill sets that I'm told, and I fully believe in is one of the most important, but also the most difficult to master. There's an artistry to doing it. And oftentimes there's a sales team's its own spin that needs to be put on it, not just the questions or the conversation that starts from a marketing perspective. So near and dear to my heart right now is, of course, CrowdStrike is going around. So I picked a Secure Net Solutions, mocked up a security business for us today. And we went through this with an account team in mind. So the account team is focused on building their own discovery questions. Obviously, they can get support from marketing. But I asked them to first think about individual research. So they all had to go read the 10K and different earnings reports and come up with topic areas that are pertinent to them. And then from that, go into a list of questions, right? The questions that we would ask within each category. And then prioritizing as an account team, which of those questions do I like the most? I would see myself, using in the field. But then not stopping there, we wanted to then practice these. And so Meahana has a new activity called micro role plays that allows us to sort of practice just one particular aspect of a conversation to sort of validate, are these even good discovery questions and how well are we at performing them? And then lastly, based upon that feedback, how do we revise some of the ones that sounded good on paper? We even rated them high, but when we stress tested them, when we said them out loud, for whatever reason, we all just sort of universally agreed that they didn't land. Sound good?
I love it. What I like about this approach is you're immediately contextualizing this concept of discovery in the knowledge that the team is bringing to the table, not just what is
Sure.
about our company that we need to pull out of people. It's really what is it about our potential customers' company that we want to be able to focus on and zero in on in terms of where we can add value. So fantastic.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, I fully believe that no one is smarter than everyone, and that goes for the account team themselves. So we started off the session with just kind of brainstorming topics. So this was done as pre-work. You can see the sort of list of items. I consolidated them down a little bit. And then as the leader of the session, prior to the actual start of the session, I had to sort of identify which of these sort of categories are the most prominent or the ones that are most important for the account team. So then we got into our live event, sort of welcome B2B sellers. This was our SecureNet account team. This focused in on discovering what's going on in the world of SecureNet. How do we ultimately solve some of the challenges that they have? And so I picked 4, right? Security challenges. These are sort of broad security topics. Compliance, which is near and dear to my heart right now. Obviously, the challenges, and then from an R&D perspective. And we just asked everyone to list out questions that were kind of top of mind. They took some time to do that. You can kind of see them listed out here. What's interesting about some of these questions, there's some commonalities or some overlaps. And so what I wanted to do is rank these with respect to each category. And so, on our platform, the slider ranking allows us to sort of give a score to each of these. And you'll see some floated to the top, some less. More importantly, when we stack rank these in sort of a forcing function, you can see that we were able to then identify some of them that the account team felt really passionate that these are the right questions to ask and that we need to sort of take them forward into a practice cycle. And if you think about all of these different questions, there's about 8 on the list. What's really fun is this idea of micro role plays, Beth. And so, as you know, role plays shouldn't always be, 90 minutes of prep time, a fictitious account, all this case study information, 20-minute presentation, you go for lunch, you come back, and then you get feedback on how you did. This is about just the tiny, tiny things that you do, like eye contact or that tiny little bit in a golf swing. And so what happens here is the teams are broken into 2 to 3 individuals. One person is the leader, and that person chooses for each of the micro role plays, who's going to be the seller, who's going to be the buyer. They choose one of the questions, right, that they identified as ones to focus on. And then once they start the conversation, the seller is provided with that question, right? This is their ammunition to start the dialogue. The buyer is just given a tiny prompt, like here, just so you know, the type of thing that you might respond with. And then they're off to the races. This can go anywhere from 30 seconds to like 2 minutes, but that's it. It's sort of micro role play. The idea is to do these over and over and over again. At the end of the role play, the folks who are observing it, they get to rate the seller, right? And give some just basic feedback, like that was really cool framing. I thought you listened well. More importantly, they get to rate the content. right? Did that question actually sound well over time coming out? And at the front of the room, if you're doing this at a big kickoff event, you get a lot of sort of data to suggest how is the content overall performing, and then who's performing well from a seller perspective in the room. So coming out of this exercise, there's a little bit of reflection that these things might have sounded good on paper, but then when we rated them again, we sort of see the Likert scale rating, where we get to see which of those questions were sort of solid versus good versus poor. And you can see the ones on the top. We had a unanimous ranking, sort of the compliancy and industry regulations exercise, but there were 3 at the bottom that ultimately all of us said, those aren't great, right? We thought they might be great before. And so what we wanted to do then as an account team is say, okay, we thought they were good before, we stress tested them before. Here's the original questions, those 3 on the bottom that we rated poor. And then we worked together as an individual account team to sort of revise these. And if you'll notice, the item that's on the left here kind of corresponds with the item that's on the right. And we do these as a small group, and we kind of spend some time on these, try to make them maybe less close-ended, a little bit more kind of experience-driven, somewhere where we're going to get better and deeper conversation. And at the end of this, of course, you can export all of this data into a takeaway that shows you the original questions you liked, the new questions you love, and then you're kind of excited to go to your account next. What are your thoughts on that approach for building discovery questions as a team?
I love the approach of building them collaboratively, and I also love the way you can stress test them in rapid fire with people taking on different roles and seeing how it sounds and for different people. I mean, you and I might approach the same question in a very different way, and so getting to see that and get feedback not just on our approaches but also on the content is really valuable. What do you see as kind of the next step, like coming out of this activity as a team? How do they apply that moving forward in the real world?
I think it's culturally going to be different depending on the company who you are and how you work. Sometimes product marketing teams have pretty tight reins on the playbooks and the profiles and the CRM system and how those questions get deployed. What we're really trying to give is a framework and some scaffolding for any enablement team to use it as they choose. Personally, I would love for people to use this on a kind of continuous basis with managers, maybe leading 30 or 60-minute meetings every month, every quarter, to kind of stress test new types of questions, or frankly, other types of aspects of the sales process, like how do I handle objections? What's the elevator pitch? All of that stuff has a style component to it. It shouldn't just be the same every time. And I think sales teams can gamify the learning experience and maybe build a little bit of a community. That's the hope anyway.
I love that. I could see this also being useful in those situations where there's emergent challenges that maybe the field is coming back and saying, wow, we're trying to take this content out and it's just not resonating. How do we adjust it?
Sure. Yeah. And we've certainly seen that in our careers. Well, thank you, Beth. This is Sales Discovery for Account Team Plans.
Awesome. Looks great.
See you next time.
Bye.